Hello, hello. What's going on, Andrea?
Hi Ben. Hi, good morning. How are you?
Doing all right. I am, dude. This puppy, dude. I'm so tired, but things are good. But yeah, he's learning though, which is really nice. It's definitely been a good improvement. Just like like going on walks because like I never went outside before. Like I'm an introvert. I like staying inside, so he kind of forces me to go outside, which is really nice. But yeah, he is a lot of work though, a lot of work.
Well, how old is he now?
He's 15 weeks. He just hit 15 weeks, I think, yesterday. So
Uh,
next week he'll get his last like major vaccine. And then 2 weeks after that, I could start taking him out without like the main reason why I'm like so stressed is because he doesn't have all his vaccines that I have to be
right.
very um like very watchful of like what he's eating, what he's touching, and whatnot. So like I have to really look at to make sure he's not picking up, like dog poop, making sure he's not picking up like dead animals. So I'm like really, like my focus is like really huge there. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah.
almost there.
Yeah, almost. All right. And then give me one sec. I think he actually needs to be let out as well. So at least give people a couple minutes to join.
Yeah. Hi, Brett.
Okay.
And Ben, are you back? It's not yet. So let's wait one more minute, Brett, if that's all right, until Ben is back, then we can get started.
Yeah, I'm not in a rush. I actually need to run down into my kitchen and get some coffee.
Sounds good.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah. Brett joined as he went to fetch some coffee. So let's wait for
Cool,
him
cool.
to be
I
back, and then
also had
yeah.
a topic that I wanted to talk about. So let me pull up the notes real quick. It basically has to do with the what I noticed with the Java SDK with this new PR for custom events,
Mhm.
and how I don't know if this is in particular to this PR or if it's a spec issue. So I'm gonna pose the discussion here and see where it needs to move to. But let me pull up the notes real quick. All right, meeting. True.
Okay, I'm back.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah. So yes, we can get started. To welcome everyone to the CDEvents working group. For the recording, today is Monday, the 22nd of July. My name is Andrea Frittoli. I work for IBM. So we have a couple of things on the agenda today. The first thing I wanted to ask folks about is the schedule for the summer. If we should have meetings on a regular basis like normal through July and August, or are people going to be around? What any thoughts? So personally, I mostly be around in July. I have a few days off in August, so I would miss probably 3 of the meetings in August, as they're a bit spread around. And right now, ML is on PTO for about 4 weeks, I think. So he'll probably be back in August time. So I guess he could cover for that month. But yeah, we just wanted to ask what people think, if we have enough to discuss for the summer, or if we should adjourn in September.
Okay, let me first ask this question, which I think is going to be really important. What is the timeline for 0.5? Because I think depending on what that is will determine whether or not I think that's going to sway my decision on whether or not I think we should have a summer schedule or not.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's up to us, really. To be honest, I mean, the next event that we have, I think, is the Mini Summit in Vienna in September. But I don't think we have enough to go, enough done on the new version of the spec to warrant a new release by that time. At least
Gotcha,
that's my
gotcha.
feeling. I don't think
Wait, when
I
was
mean,
that?
so the summit, the City Mini Summit is, I think, 19th of September or something like that in
Okay,
Europe.
okay.
Yeah, but usually we try to, align with events that we have from the CD Foundation, maybe to make announcement for a new release. But right now, I mean, we focus mostly on, the new implementation working group and implementing the SDKs for 0.4. So I don't think we have much done really new in the 0.5.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah,
I just added an
thanks.
item for 0.5, which this is where I think a lot of the breaking, because I told you like we should try to get as many breaking changes as we can into 0.5 just to make it
Mhm.
easier for people going forward. I really think we should maybe just not CD events, but also like all events and look at what we need to change. And what I mean by that is so we were we did a thought experiment with like the CD events, and we found that they weren't too useful because of how little it's too little information to where it doesn't really give us enough to really do anything with. So yeah, so that's kind of, I think, something we need to look at, figure out how to improve that as well. Uh,
Yeah.
it's going to probably be a lot of changes, new introductions, as well as renaming things. I think is going to be really important as well. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, definitely. I mean, I think the idea with the city events, I mean, they were put down like on paper in the beginning, the initial schema, and it was minimal by design because it was, just getting started. So for some of them, maybe there is a bit more to go, but for many, there's probably a lot of space for adding more data into them. So I think I had some conversation with folks at OpsMX that have been also trying to, use CDEvents to do something real. And so I think if we put like the feedback we have together, we can probably get them to better state. I
Okay,
mean, in terms of
awesome.
renaming, yeah, I guess we'll if you have specific issues, things that you want to point out, we'll discuss them one by one. But
Yeah.
like,
So I
yeah.
am, what I'm getting at is I'm writing an internal doc right now to kind of highlight all the things that kind of need to happen with the CD side of CD events. And I plan on publishing that to our side of the fence here shortly, probably like next week or so,
Mhm.
to kind of like add to the 0.5 milestone as like GitHub issues. So I just wanted to call that out, because I know, we haven't
Mhm.
talked too much about 0.5, but I just want to say, this is one area that I'm focusing on currently. Now, with that said, like I said, like this is just the CD side of things. I'm on the Spinnaker team, so that's why I'm looking at this one
Right.
first. But this is probably true for other avenues or other
Mhm.
subjects.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I guess the more we start using them, the more we'll need to add to them. But
Yeah, well, I
yeah.
guess my question there was, I was trying to ask a question, but I did realize I didn't ask it. Is, since I'm focusing on the CD side of things, and you mentioned OpsMX, which is also CD, do we have any? I could ask internally, CI wise, but we don't really have anyone CI wise that are really like pushing for CD events right now. So I'm wondering, have you talked to anyone that I could potentially reach out to kind of see if we can work together to figure out if we can, but if we can get everything to 0.5 with breaking changes, that would be fantastic. So that question is, do you know of anyone from the CI side of things that could potentially help with this?
I guess on the OpsMX team, they had also some CI component, I think. They were looking at something on Jenkins side. Uh, but yeah. Um,
Okay, yeah, that
yeah,
works for
let
me
me let,
then.
let me let me think about it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll reach back out to you. Actually, when I share the doc next week, we can talk about it more because we're still really early, but I definitely want to start the discussions. But yeah.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. All right. Um, yeah, so just briefly switching back to the schedule then, any thoughts? Do you want to run meeting normally or prefer to skip, or what are your thoughts, Ben and Brett?
From the sounds of it, it sounds like we could probably maybe skip a little bit. I mean, maybe make it bi-weekly or something just for the summer.
Okay.
I'm fine with checking Slack to see if we're gonna have the meeting or not. But like, I don't have any vacation until September, so.
So when you propose switch to bi-weekly. Okay. Yeah, I guess, I mean, I'd be happy to like switch to bi-weekly. And we have the implementation working group as well. So maybe we could alternate with those, so we don't have two meetings in 1 week. And then maybe we could resume normal schedule in September. But then I guess we could also, as you said, Brett, let's check if we have agenda, if we have things that we want to discuss. And if not, we can decide if we still want to meet or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Yep,
think
I'm good with it.
yeah, I think that makes sense. And I'm also okay hosting the meetings myself if we really need to have the meetings, or if we need, just want to keep them around. I'm totally okay with that as well.
That's great, thanks. Okay, sounds good. Do you want to discuss, Ben, the point you added, like determining what events are custom programmatically first?
Yeah. I think it's really quick, and since you wrote the proposal, you probably know the answer really quickly. So basically, the gist is, when I was reviewing Jalander's PR, the way that he was doing generation and determining whether or not something was a custom event is just by looking at the suffix that it ends with custom, which is very fragile. Is that the way we're determining something is a custom event when we're looking at I guess event in general? My understanding was like there would be, like, it would be like a separate namespace, right? Like it just felt like, I was just wondering if that PR, like that line was like maybe a little too, yeah, not doing the right thing. So I was just kind of wondering your take on and how you did it in the Go SDK.
Um, yeah, so we have the type that is going to be, so the type is dev.CDEvents X
Yes.
for custom events. And then there is the schema URI, which applies to normal event and custom events, and but that's a different thing. I think that's not what you're talking about. So that's
Yeah. So I think this kind of handles what I was wondering. Okay, so it is we do have that custom namespace. Okay, so I'll post back on that PR saying that we should not look for a suffix with like custom at the end of it, and instead like look for this type. And now that there could be a reason why Jalander's not doing that, but if if it was just missed, and we definitely should be looking at the type instead, if possible. So I was just wondering if that was, because obviously if we add any event that has custom at the end of it, like that's going to suddenly not generate code. So I was just wondering, if this was the way that we were determining things. Okay, but it sounds like there is in fact some way of distinguishing the difference.
Yeah, I think, trying to think. So I think that's only for the generator. I think it's the same way I'm doing it in the generator for the Go SDK. And the reason is that if you have an actual event, then the suffix is going to be you have the type defined, but when you're working with the generator, you only have the schemas, and the schema for custom event is generic, and so the type is not defined. So the only thing,
gotcha.
the only thing that we have there, or we could have there, is that the type should begin with this. I'm not sure that we have that in the schema, because I'm not sure the schema supports that. Maybe it does. So that's the reason for that, but that's only in the generator.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, I understand that was only in the generator, but like I said, it just seemed a little fragile and potentially something that we might miss if we did add an event that ended with custom. Very unlikely, but like I said, we just want to be careful.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, for me, it was just a way to distinguish the schema for the custom events from the other schema, because that's the only schema which has an ID that ends with that. But yeah, but actually, I think I have in the Go SDK. Yes, trying to find that. So yeah, so in the Go SDK generator, and basically we're looking for a schemas. If it ends with, if it matches schema/custom, then it's the schema of the custom events. Otherwise,
Gotcha.
it's a
So
normal schema.
the Java SDK is even more generic. It's not even schema/custom. It's just custom. Just ends with custom.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I was like, okay, that's a little like schema/custom I can be okay with, but like just checking the suffix for custom felt a little too vague, right? Where it could potentially cause issues in the future. So that's why I was wondering if the Go SDK was doing something similar, or maybe we should relook at that line of code.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely make the check a bit more specific. Yeah, the reason we cannot look at the type, as I said, is because the type is not defined yet in that a generator time.
Yeah. Makes
But
sense.
when unmarshalling an event, the type is what we look for, at least in the Go SDK. That's what I look for. So if the type is
I think that's fine. I'll add that comment, saying that Go SDK looks at the schema/custom and not just custom. And I think that's a little bit more strict. Actually, that level of strictness will make me happy, to be honest. So I think we can go with that. And like I said, it was a nit comment either way, but I just wanted to ask just to make sure.
Okay, sounds good. Right. So the only other thing, I'm not sure if it's something we want to do today or not. I thought maybe we could have a look at what we have right now in the 0.5 milestone. and decide whether these are things that we want to do for this milestone
One
or
thing
not.
I think we should do as well is I think I mentioned this to Emil as well. Like for every one or for all these meetings, we should always look at the milestones, like as like the first like 5 minutes, just to kind of like see if we're on track. To be honest, but yeah, I
Right.
think yeah, bringing it up now, I think it is fine. But yeah, that's something I think we should start doing though.
Okay. So this is the 05 milestone. So one thing about the first three, these have been filed by David. So David Bernard is the maintainer of the Rust SDK. And last I spoke to him, he mentioned that he was kind of in between jobs. And I think in the new job, he would be working on CDEvents, continue working on CDEvents, hopefully even more than before. But yeah, I think it's still in the transition phase. So I need to check with them what is your availability to work on this kind of thing. So, and if it's not available, maybe that's something that someone from us maybe wants to pick up. But yeah. So that said, the first one was about removing subject type. So today we have a type field within the subject, which is basically a copy of the subject that is in the message type, if it makes sense. It's a bit confusing to say. Let me have a look at the one example event, which I think it makes it more clear. So here we have artifact deleted event. And then we have this subject type here, which is artifact. And this is done so always so that this type here matches the type here. And the reason we had this we had this type here is because the content, this field is called content for all events. And so this type was meant to basically specify what type of content are we looking at here. And David's point is that we can actually already find out from the event type, so we don't need to have this extra type field, which is just a repetition. So his proposal was to remove it in the next milestone.
Right. Okay. So that's just subject type. Okay. Yeah. I think that's fine. I was thinking like custom data, but yeah, I think that should be, oh, custom data could be anything. But yeah. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. I agree. So I think we could remove it completely, or if you want to make it like a smoother transition, we could make it optional. Like still
I guess
accept it, but
there's
not
one
use it.
use case though that it does allow for, is that if the structure is dynamic, like if the structure is not always artifact, it could be something else, even though it's the same type, right? Or the same context type. So having a separate type allows it to be a little bit more flexible. Now, the question is whether or not we want that. We probably don't, to be honest. Like that's probably a red flag in terms of architecture. But that is something like if we do remove it, we do lose that ability. Whether we want it is a different story.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure we'll need it. But
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to call it out, but yeah, I definitely agree.
I guess maybe the thought was we could have the type reused across events. But at the end of the day, the type of the subject it is used across events, but it's only across the event for a specific subject. So we have type artifact in all the artifact events and so forth. Yeah. Okay. So what I can do, I can try and ping David and see if he's interested in working on this. Otherwise, we could try to, pick them up. And because this, if you're doing this as a breaking changes release, I think it's good to, put them all together so we don't break again in the next one.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The next one is more like cosmetic, about like we have in conformance test name underscore predicate, and in schemas we have name predicate without the
Oh,
underscore.
I didn't even
So
notice that. Yeah.
to align that, there are certain, I mean, this will have an impact on the SDKs and
But
on
I think
the,
that's better though, right? Because what's good about separating them out like that is, or having underscores, it makes it easy to camel case, right?
yeah, exactly. And I guess this was the initial setup, and then when we got to the conformance test, yeah, to be able to read them and parse them. So these were introduced later to be able to work better with them. I added the underscore there, but yeah, never went back to the schemas to align them to that. So yeah, so that's something we should do. So alignment. Oh, and that's again some kind of inconsistency, and that's between the type, which is artifact deleted, and the ID, which is artifact dash deleted dash event.
Right.
And again, this is something that I needed to make it easier to publish them, but it should be possible to align them. So right, so the next one is so I guess these three are probably some work, but it's something that I would like to see in 0.5, so I would keep it in. So the next one is GitHub to CDEvents translation. And so this is about, it's a very old issue about being able to generate CDEvents from GitHub events. And I think we had a few attempts at this. Someone said, oh, I'm going to work on this, but it actually never happened so far. But yeah, many people I talk to about CDEvents, they say, oh, it would be good to have it for, this kind of things. I also tried at some point to start like building a GitHub app that would do that, but I had no time on that at the end. So, but yeah, it would be good if we can find someone who can work on this. It would be great to have it. And since we have the webhook adapter now, it would probably make sense to have it as a plugin for the webhook adapter.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know. The thing is, we don't have a way to. So we have it marked as roadmap to mean that's something we want to have. But we don't have anyone actually working on this today. So I don't know if it makes sense to keep it in the milestone or how we want to track this. I think it would be good to have in the milestone things that we know that we are actually going to work on. But yeah. It's more of a project management type of question, I guess, how we want to group things. So I don't know if we want to mark things that we think are important with a specific label, or just keep them all in the milestone and move them to the next milestone when we close the milestone, if they're not done.
Let me think about this some as well, because I think this is really important to kind of dictate like the flow of our releases. Because some of these tasks are very large, and then some of them are pretty small. So I'm just wondering if we're making 0.5 like the breaking change release. I'm wondering if breaking changes should have higher priority, and like this, GitHub CDEvents translation, although important, should be like on the lower priority scale, and focusing more on the breaking changes side of things. What do you think?
Yeah, I would tend to agree.
Okay.
I would just like to have a way to, if someone say, okay, yeah, I want to contribute, what are the important things that we have, and if everything in the current milestone is taken, what are the next things that we want to look at? I guess the roadmap label maybe serves that purpose already. So, but then what I would do, I would remove these from the milestone, because it's not about breaking changes and it's not a small piece of work, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I would like to, especially, based on what you said, that you would like to review this list more often. I think that's a good idea, but we also need to have this list then, short enough.
Yes, where we can actually review it. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I thought I removed it. No, I didn't. Right. I would say defining the other abbreviations for all events type is also not critical for this milestone. This was a proposal by ML to basically have a shorter name for all events that we can use then in diagrams.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, to clear myself from here. Okay, I'll just go ahead if I don't hear otherwise. Okay, clarify usage of source as a long-standing one. And this is about, today we say that source is a URI reference, I think. But the question with this one was to give more guidance about how source should be used, what format should it be, whether it's a generic thing or maybe it's event specific, event type specific. Yeah. I would say this is also not something required for this milestone. This is a potential candidate, so we discussed at some point renaming the current SCM events from changes to proposals. Which would be a breaking change. And the reasoning is that we want to be able to track things like PRs and so forth. And those are not necessarily actual changes, they're like proposed changes. There are changes somewhere in some branch, so it could be argued both ways. Personally, I would tend to say that the churn is not justified in this case, and I would prefer to keep the current naming. if you're talking back, I can't hear you
Oh no, no,
anymore.
I was just reading. I was reading what Emil
Oh,
was writing. Yeah. Yeah, I would need to look at the old issue as well to kind of get more context. Sorry, I might have missed it because I was reading and like really focused. So sorry if you were talking. And but yeah, I think for the most part, this doesn't seem. Yeah, no, no, I agree. I see what it's saying now. Yeah, I think it's fine to keep this one in, to be honest. It seems relatively small.
okay. Let's keep it in for now. And yeah. This is another something else that Emil brought up. That would be a breaking change. So maybe we should keep it in and then spend some time discussing it in some upcoming meeting. So basically, Emil's proposal here in a nutshell was to separate fields which are specific to a subject to fields which are specific to a predicate, if it makes sense. So today we have the content, and then we have all fields there together, but some fields are the same across events and some are not. And so his proposal was to separate them so that we have like everything which is specific to the subject but not specific to the predicate together.
Mm. Well, I do think it's probably fine. I don't think it's necessarily important either. I guess I don't really see the benefit of separating them out at this point. Is kind of what I'm getting at. And I wish Emil was here so he can kind of give more um
Hmm.
insight on why he wants to do this. But I think actually having them in the subject actually might be a little bit more readable as well, because like when you see predicate, you might be like, oh, what, like, you know, someone from the outside world never looking at CDEvents might be like, what is predicate tied to, right? Unless it said like subject dash predicate, but it doesn't, it just says predicate. And you know, and like I said, and it doesn't seem like it's a big enough deal to have things nested where, well, you know, if it was like 4 or 5 less nested levels deep, I'd be like, yeah, maybe we should split things out. But I think it's just being like you know, just wrapped in content, I think is fine. But let's wait until Emil is back, because there could be more reason to why he wanted to do this. I'm just not seeing the value in it, to be honest.
Okay, but let's keep it in the Myson, so we'll bring it
Yes.
up again. Define requirement for releasing 1.0. I don't think this is necessarily something we need to have in the next milestone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then secure software supply chain aspects. Yeah, so this is actually implemented in 0.4. There are more secure software supply chain things that we might want to implement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is actually no. We should include an SBOM field into artifact events. Yeah, yeah. So this is actually done. So, yeah, I'll follow up on this. Link the PR is already linked.
What was that comment or that issue on 171 that on January 15th it said add an SBOM URI? What was that? What was the last comment on there? Oh, it was just merged. Okay, sorry. I just
Yeah.
saw like the commit. Okay, so yeah, it was just okay. Yeah. I think we just removed this then.
Yeah, we just close this one as implemented by this PR. Okay. content outcome field not declared as enums. So I think there is some discussion going on outcome. And so this is probably relevant for this release. Also, I think Brett has some proposal about aligning outcomes. So with our work we do in changing the enums for outcomes, I think it would be probably good to have it, as it might break things if we change values.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, we can keep that one in there.
Versioning field in the context part is confusing. Maybe rename to spec version. So this is about the fact that we have in here, we take an example as usual. So we have version in here, and I was saying that I think we've seen in a few cases folks expect this to be the version of the event, while the version of the event we have it here in the type. And so this is the version of the specification. So the proposal was to rename these as spec version to make that clear.
Right.
It's a small thing.
Yeah, definitely small.
It's a breaking a change again.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, like, does that help though, right? Like, I think the issue is not that it's called version. I think the issue is that there's two versions, like right next to each other, right? Like like 4 fields down, there's another version. So I think that's where the confusion might be stemming from, as opposed to just version. I think even it calling it spec version, I wonder if spec version would help though. Um, I don't know, because the reason why I'm asking this is, if we make a breaking change, we want to make sure that it's actually solving whatever it is that it's trying to solve for, right? And I don't know if that would solve the problem. I think just renaming it to spec version will still confuse people when they see type and then the version at the end of it, right? Um, I don't know. I feel like we might need to do like a little bit of like a user study of some sort to say, hey, when you see these two fields, right? What do you think when you see what do these versions mean to you? And then show them another one with like spec version and be like, what do you think this means to you? And then see how they reason about it. You know, I can do that internally at my company, but maybe we could do this a little bit more branched out. You know, if you can, you know, get some folks outside of you know, outside of IBM as well, you know, whoever you've been talking to, maybe OpsumX would be a good candidate, and give them the two approaches and just ask them, what, when you read this, what does it mean, right? Like, what, when you see this spec version versus version, you know, what does that mean to you? How do you read this?
Okay, let me capture this.
Yeah, and I'll that on my to-do. Let me see if I have a CDEvents meeting this week. That might be next week. I might have to wait. Oh no, I have a CDEvents meeting next week. Okay, or tomorrow. So I'll ask this very question to some folks internally to see what their thoughts are on the readability of that, or if they feel like it doesn't really help either way.
Okay, I hope that captures that. Feel free to comment more.
Yeah, sounds good.
But I'll leave it in the milestone then so we can review it.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we should have another tag too. That's like, to be considered or something like that. That, we can always like, or another label to always. So like when we bring up the milestone, we can see which ones we need to like decide whether or not we want to put into 0.5.
Okay, sounds good. How would you
Yeah,
call
probably
it?
to be considered or something like that.
Right, and I guess that's then applies to content
The
outcome
and
and display.
62. Oh yeah, sorry, wrong one. Yeah, that one. Yep.
But 62 as well, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Works for me.
Okay. Okay, so this is the protocol is not consistent on events and notify executions. Okay, so this is about some of our subjects. They have a start and a stop, just like pipeline runs, task runs, build, test case, and test suite. And some of them are started and finished, some are queued. But some don't, so they're not consistent. So maybe I guess Emil proposal here was to have a think across those types and see if we could have like a kind of consistent type of predicates there.
Yeah, I definitely think that could be nice.
Yeah.
But does he highlight? Oh, he does. Okay, I see.
So I'll label it then to be considered, and we can have this discussion maybe.
That works for me.
In the upcoming meeting. Consider adding artifact quarantined. So this is about adding a new event. There was a follow-up of some other discussion. Yeah, it's something we could consider. It's not something that I would necessarily see then for this specification version.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can punt that to the next milestone, to be honest.
Yeah, we don't have a 0.6 defined, so I'll just clear the milestone for now.
I wonder if we should have like a backlog milestone where we just punt things to that we can pull from.
Yeah, I guess that was the intention of the roadmap label. So maybe
Oh, is that what it was? Gotcha.
I think so. So we just put it there so we don't lose it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, perfect.
So this is a PR. It's
Yeah,
outcome. Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
haven't worked on it, but yeah, I forgot about it, to be honest. I'll actually revisit this. Okay, I'll take a look at it today, and see what needs to be done. I remember there was some discussion on it. But yeah, I'll look at making those changes, and we can include it to 0.5.
Okay. So this is about defining how we want to handle deprecating fields in CDEvents. I guess until we are in 0.something, we have been working under the assumptions that we can break because we have not done a 1 point release yet. So I'm not sure this is something that is required for 0.5, but it's certainly something that we should agree upon at some point.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay, we only have 4 minutes left, but I think we did covered quite a few of them.
Mhm.
Type of URL fields is inconsistent.
Oh, I think this is URL versus URI.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not even URL versus URI. It's just totally named different. Oh, it is URI. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like this change. I agree completely with this. So I think we should definitely include it into 0.5. That's kind of the same thing.
Yes. And this is again similar.
Actually, these are all duplicated. So let's close those two and keep 191 open.
Yeah, the thing is that Owen made a PR
Oh,
already about some of it, so I just wanted to circle back with Owen to see
gotcha.
if he's all right with that. But yeah, and seems to be related as well. But I agree. I think this is actually a PR again. Define URL. So this is a PR that addresses the issue.
191.
So yeah. Consistency, camel case, snake case, this seems to be its breaking change belong here.
Mhm.
Removed and upgraded predicates for service removal consideration.
Yeah, so this was the predicates of removed
Okay.
for on the service subject. And the reason is for every CI tool, there's never a concept for CI tooling, there is no concept of remove. It's always an upgrade or an update, or like a rollback, right? But there's never this concept of removed. Where removed would be happening would be at the Kubernetes level, right? Like Kubernetes would be able to say, hey, something was removed, or some, something that is outside of the CD tooling, but part of that scope. So I guess the question is, does Kubernetes mean, is that the right area? Is that continuous delivery, or is that something different? Secondly, should we even include removed if it's always captured by upgraded for CD tooling, for example? But what I could see, however, is CD tooling saying something's been upgraded, then having some sort of Kubernetes controller that's saying, hey, these are sending CD events to say, hey, these things were removed. But I feel like that's not a continuous delivery event. That is almost like an infrastructure event, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's the point. Yeah, that's the point of that issue, at least.
Yeah. Well, I think it makes sense to discuss it as part of this milestone. So let's keep it here. Yeah, the last one we discussed it many times about the enum or string, so I'm not sure we reached a conclusion yet, but I would keep it there so we revisit
Right.
it.
Well, I think the discussion
yeah.
was, well, I thought not the conclude, but the one action item was to look at something other than JSON schema, right? I thought we were potentially going to look at like protobuf or Swagger, for example, and because they would allow you to do the things that we're trying to do. So I think we need to call that out, to say, look at other modeling languages that might be more suitable for CD events. Oh, and I got to drop too. I have another meeting.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thanks, Andrea. Thanks, everyone. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye.